Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Sox On Tap.
Tony, my first reaction is just, fuck yes, let's go.
Sox versus Richmond. That's where it all starts. It all starts taking care of business in-house in the Central Division.
That's right, I'm a meatball.
You got to bring that top button swag, baby.
It is always great to beat the Cubs.
And I'm a homer, so I always say they're gonna. Dallas Keuchel Lamson got some beards that you should be afraid of.
What everybody said when he gets out there, it's me versus the other guy, and I'm going to beat him. So I just love that mentality. It's cool and fucking tough.
Steve, would you say that Tony is mad online?
I would definitely say that.
The White Sox winner.
Hello, White Sox fans. It's Tony Marchese alongside NWI Steve. We are talking about another atrocious ending of a ball game here tonight at Sox On Tap. Steve, I'll get to you in just a second here, but before I do, be sure you're going to ontapsportsnet.com for all your Chicago sports literature and podcasting needs. That's where Steve goes to the content factory to talk about your Chicago White Sox. I've heard there's going to be some new articles coming out here soon, so be sure you're checking out our White Sox section. Steve, it's not the game we want to be talking about tonight. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, yo, Anthony. Not great, Bob. It's really something when you think about it, the fact that the two losses the Sox have here in the last 9 games, they scored 9 runs and 7 and lost.
Yeah, that's not really easy to do. That's something that we saw over the course of the White Sox losing streak be, somewhat difficult for them. And then even over the course of the White Sox winning streak, I think they were getting more than around 4 runs a game if they were lucky to do so. Steve, bats come alive. Bullpen kind of falters a little bit over the last 2 games. It's over the last few games, honestly, really outside of locking it down for the game before we had the COVID cancellations. What do you do here?
It's just one of them things. Over the course of 162 games, some weird shit's going to happen. Obviously, Monday night, weirdest scenario that you could possibly imagine. Worst baseball scenario I've ever witnessed live and in person in my life. And then, today, it's just kind of one of those things where, as I've said a couple, 2-3 dozen times, ball go far.
Team go far. I mean, Steve, I hate to do this, but you have to give a little bit of admiration towards what the Yankees are doing right now in the sense of they look like a complete package. They've got the bullpen working. The offense is working. This is what you want to see from your White Sox team. Realistically, that's what you want your ball club to look like on paper, on the field. Was this a result in your mind of the better team winning tonight because they were able to come back and respond? I mean, 7 runs should be enough with Dylan Cease on the mound. Should be enough to get the job done, and it just wasn't tonight. So, where is that? Is that the Yankees are just better than the White Sox right now, or is it any other factor than that?
They're better than the Sox right now. It's just that simple. We see this far too often over the last couple of years when the Sox go up against upper echelon teams in the American League, when they go up against the Yankees, when they go up against the Astros. They do an okay job against the Rays. The fact of the matter is the Sox as a team on the pitching side of it walk too many guys. And when you do that against highly disciplined teams like the Yankees, it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. So when you walk too many guys and when you as a team have an offensive approach that you're essentially allergic to taking walks, it's going to be challenging and things like this are going to happen. So I don't know where they fix this, how they change this mindset and this approach that they have organizationally and team-wide, but we've been seeing this from the Yankees for the last 25 years. They will grind you to death. It's what they do. They will work constantly. They have guys up and down that lineup that are not afraid to take strikes. That's something that you cannot say about the White Sox lineup. And so when you have guys that are willing to work counts, get themselves into hitters situations there, or just even being in 0-2 counts, seeing a lot of pitches with consistency. Eventually, later in games, that second, third time through the order, they're going to be in a better position to do damage, and we saw that tonight.
Yeah, Steve, I don't want to sit here and say that this White Sox team can't beat the Yankees. Like you said, I mean, weird things happen in baseball. I think that they played a competitive game up until a point tonight, but it was when the White Sox raised the bar, the Yankees just kind of laughed in their face. That's kind of how I felt with this. Yohan Moncada comes out and he
let me ask you this though, Anthony, if they're laughing in their face, is that symbolic of a team that can ultimately beat the Yankees? If the Yankees are laughing at them?
I'm not saying that they can beat them consistently. The White Sox will be able to beat the Yankees, I think, in probably one game at least this series. It's going to feel good when it happens. I don't know. You seem to think differently here. I know you just witnessed some stuff live and in person that's hurt you, but I thought that there was a response from the White Sox lineup tonight, and to a certain extent, you can look at the Joe Kelly appearance and say, is that what you're going to get every single time from Joe Kelly? I'm disappointed in it. I don't like the fact that your free agent acquisition over the offseason, the guy that you bring in to be that veteran presence in the bullpen, as well as Kendall Graveman, and he's got the experience going to the World Series, kind of gets just trounced. That's not a good feeling. But, there's alternate scenarios here where he throws pitches in the zone and gets guys out, and maybe the White Sox ride into the bottom of the eighth inning without a 7-run deficit. I mean, there were other things that occurred during that inning that could have changed the course of the ball game. When I say laughed in their faces, I mean, the Yankees offense came back and responded against a good pitcher, a guy who's had a great career and the same free agent I'm talking about right now. You just have to be better in those situations. That's kind of my take here, is you have to be the team that's going to come back out and respond to a Yohan Moncada home run that ties the ball game up like that. Like, that's what you want to see from this White Sox offense. They haven't shown the ability to do that to the fullest extent that the Yankees have to this point, but there was some fight back and forth here before it got to a point where it was totally out of hand. I mean, 7 runs, that's a decent amount of offense for a baseball team.
You should win that baseball game when you score 7 runs.
You should. And so you've got to be better somewhere along the lines if you're getting beat by a score of 15-7.
Well, I mean, it's
clean it up.
It's pretty simple then. What you got to do is you got to throw fucking strikes, and you can't walk the bases loaded when you've got, Aaron Judge coming up. Or I'm sorry, Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, you can't walk the bases loaded. It's just that simple.
No, you can't. And that's the other thing too. And we talked about this a little bit in the Sox on Tap group chat, and Johnny had some fun with it every single at bat. The Aaron Judge home run. That's what I want to see from White Sox players. Now, I can't go after Yohan Moncada at this very moment, Steve, because of the home run that he had tonight. But when you talk about these guys as a White Sox fan, when you have the discussions that you see take place on Twitter.com about Yohan Moncada or about Eloy Jimenez or name your player on the White Sox, you want those sexy highlights. You want those big moment home runs. As a fan of the team, when you just get acquainted to a prospect or a guy who's coming up through your system, like a Yohan Moncada or even like an Aaron Judge, you want to see those big moments and shine on that stage type shit. It's really hard as a White Sox fan, just for me personally, and I'm just going to ask you this. When you watch a team like the Yankees and you see what they did today, right in front of your face, here's a 2 home run game from Stanton. Aaron Judge fucking puts one on your goddamn concourse. It's like, we go to a lot of White Sox games. We watch this team every day. At what point over the last few years have you seen those big star moments where it's like the lineup just pops off for a bunch of home runs all at once? It feels like it doesn't happen consistently, and it feels like when teams like the Yankees walk in to guaranteed rate, they just fucking hit. And then, warning track ball after warning track ball after warning track ball. It gets fucking tiring, dude. And that's the problem that I have with some of these guys. These are all guys that have been signed to extensions And if you want to go into the money is spent conversation, that's what they should be doing. And that's where that's the problem I have with it, is the fact that the guys that you paid aren't doing that shit enough.
At the end of the day, it comes down to you have real organizations across Major League Baseball, and then you have little mom and pop shops. We know where the White Sox fall.
But Steve, can you honestly sit there and say 7th in payroll?
Yes,
say it's a mom and pop shop.
Yes,
then
I can.
Then you have a problem with all 23 plus other teams behind that.
I have a problem on multiple different levels. So the resource allocation, when like 40%,
that's a big discussion. That's
okay.
a big discussion.
Okay, so that matters right there. But also mom and pop shop in the sense that this player development system for going on 20 years or so has not been good. It is not what the Yankees see. The Yankees, when they bring guys up, Aaron Judge has, he had his initial struggles during his rookie season. Since then, he has been a star when he has been on the field. They've gotten production out of Gleyber Torres. You can talk about, has he lived up to what people thought he was going to be when that trade was made? That's a fair discussion.
Probably not, but he's still a productive MLB player.
And then they go and they bring in major league veterans and they make them better. DJ LeMahieu has been better since he got to the New York Yankees.
And here's another question for you. Like going out and bringing in a guy like Josh Donaldson. Yeah, it helps the White Sox to a certain extent in the fact that he gets Josh Donaldson out of your division. But like I'm almost more upset that he plays for the New York Yankees than that he plays for the Minnesota Twins because of the way that our roster is constructed and who you're going to meet in the playoffs.
You got to figure it out then. You got to get, and this comes back to when I say about them being a mom and pop shop, because they don't have a good development system. They don't have the infrastructure in place. You look at teams like the Yankees, and I'm sorry, the road to the American League pennant still goes through Houston. I don't know if you've been watching this. This team's won 10 in a row. They literally went up to Minnesota and they dick slapped the shit out of the Twins today here.
Well, I'll go back to something I said on our season preview show, Steve. I don't want to make it seem as if what we're doing right now doesn't matter, but to me, the real measuring stick this year is past that first round of the playoffs. This is the good measuring stick, right? These are the series that I'm really tuned into. How do you respond to this now if you're a White Sox club? Because once again, in a playoff series type feel against the New York Yankees on a weekend, the weather's warmed up, and you've got Jose Abreu hitting routine grounders to shortstop like it's his fucking job right now. Those are the guys that have to show up. This isn't, to me, it's not a managerial tactic here or there. It's not this guy didn't make this one pitch. It's also like, where are your star players? Where's your former MVP right now?
No, you're right. Look, as long as Jose Abreu continues to hit the ball on the ground, and as long as Yasmani Grandal, keeps hitting the ball on the ground into the shift, this team isn't going to do a fucking thing. That's just what it is.
But Steve,
if they're not going to hit, if they're not going to provide power in the middle part of this lineup, maybe you can win this division and winning 84, 85 games.
But you're not getting past the Yankees. You're not getting past Houston. You're not getting past the Yankees. You're not going there. I'm not meaning to be negative here. This team can have a magical run. That's not out of the realm of possibility. But the facts that we see right now, Steve, is
there were systemic problems here.
Yes, there are. But we also have one real thing that needs to get figured out. It's the star players, the guys that were sold to you as phenoms, the guys that were brought in as part of this thing. There were T-shirts with all these guys' last names on them and pray for the league for so long. And if we're sitting here right now still talking about how, we're not quite there yet, and those are the guys that the organization chose to invest in, bringing back Jose Abreu, giving money to Yohan Moncada, giving money to Luis Robert, giving money to Eloy Jimenez. If you want to make that argument that, we should have spent even more, that's fine. I'm taking this a different way. They think they spent the money. Where's the onus on the guys that aren't providing me highlight reel home runs at a more consistent rate? Yet everybody wants to seem to get mad at Lurie Garcia and Gavin Sheets and a couple other things. Yeah, that's frustrating. I can appreciate that.
So when you talk about, guys like Eloy and Yohan not living up to expectations, that's where it is a developmental problem. And that's where I come back to the infrastructure not being there, not being in line with teams like the Yankees, not being in line with someone like the Astros or the Rays that we see consistently in the postseason year in and year out, and teams that get the most they can out of their players. Look at the Astros. Look at that core group of guys. Okay, their core group of guys have produced at the major league level. Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa when he was there, Jordan Alvarez now. You've got Tucker. Now they just keep bringing guys up through their system, and
Hell, you know what? The one that bothers me, Steve, is Miles Straw, who comes up in this system. He's not like the biggest name, right? Produces there, gets traded over to Cleveland, and is now a thorn in the White Sox side in the division. But yet,
because the Astros are a smart organization that utilizes resources correctly.
I think Miles Straw is the part of a winning ball club. The guy gets on base. He plays an excellent defense. He hits the ball. He just does things that become annoying. He's a good ball player. And then they can trade that away and continue to help their organization. We haven't been able to even trade guys away through this to kind of help out what we're doing outside of Dane Dunning.
Because one organization knows what they're doing and the other doesn't.
Correct. So that's where I want to go back to it. I don't know if it's really I honestly don't know. 7th in the league in payroll. I don't know if the payroll's the problem. Maybe it's a little bit of allocation. It's
both.
Where that is. Oh yeah, hell, I'd love them to spend another $100 million and just go all in, but we know that ain't gonna fucking happen, dude.
Look,
so you've got to work within your constraints, and you've got to be able to win.
Here's the example, or kind of the framework right now. The Mets do not have a good farm system. Steve Cohen, obviously the richest owner in the league, looked at this and said, "Okay, I've got two paths here. Either one, I can pump a shit ton of money into this team at the major league level and blow past the luxury tax to, the third level, pay the, the $25-30 million fine, which he finds in his couch cushions. Okay. That's like, $20 or $30 to you and I.
I'll ask you this, man. Where are you happy with what? Do they need to be number one in spending every year for I'm just really curious. At the end of the day,
they should be probably top 5 to 7 in payroll every year, but they also then the area that nobody talks about, everybody only wants to look at that payroll number when the Jerry Reinsdorf relatives, want to come at me on twitter.com and say that I'm being too mean to, the 86-year-old asshole that's been ruining my life for almost 4 decades. The fact of the matter is this. Okay, people only want to look at that major league payroll. They don't want to look at the fact that for 20 years, he neglected the Latin American market. He refuses to sign 16-year-olds out of the Dominican Republic and Venezuela. Those are the guys that turn into your superstars. That he wants to spend money on 23-year-old Cubans. Okay, which, yeah, you can get a Luis Robert that way, but, then you get guys like Gilbert, like Gilbert Sanchez.
Diversify it.
And he refuses up until this past year. He has refused to draft high school position players. Again, that's if you look across Major League Baseball, the overwhelming majority of superstars are position players that were drafted out of high school. He refuses to do those things because he seems to be morally opposed to giving multi-million-dollar deals to teenagers. And because of that, the infrastructure and the continuous pipeline that we were told was going to be there isn't. So that's so when I talk about this thing being a mom and pop shop, that's what I'm referring to.
I get you, and we've actually never gone down this path of conversation to the extent we have. And Steve and I talk a lot about the White Sox. For those that tuned into this, like I'm kind of going off the beaten path here. Like I'm actually really curious about this because of the game today. I'm gonna get back to the game today here for a second. Sox lose by a final of 15-7 to the New York Yankees. Not a pleasant night here at Sox on Tap. I'm enjoying this conversation, Steve. I really love to dig in and just learn what you have to say, because you've followed this team a little bit longer than me. I look at you as kind of an older brother, so to speak, in certain ways, because you've been around this team more than I have for a long time. So I'm enjoying this. Let's talk a little bit about Dylan Cease here. Comes into this ball game and just, apparently only wants to strike people out. Otherwise, we're serving some shit up. Steve, give me some takes on Dylan Cease tonight.
Okay, so I kind of watched this Dylan Cease start a little differently than I have his other ones to this point in the season here. So I actually was charting and looking at what he was throwing on his first pitches and what pitches he was using for his strikeouts. So it was interesting. He faced 20 hitters today. He threw 12 first pitch fastballs, 4 first pitch sliders, and 4 curveballs. So 60% of the time, he's attacking with the fastball early on it. And that has really kind of gone against the grain what we have seen from him early on this season, pitching backwards and utilizing his breaking pitches to set guys up. So obviously that was probably a concerted effort, something within the scouting report, maybe some advanced scouting data that they, looked at to try to develop a game plan here. So I found that to be fascinating. The other thing I was really encouraged by was him utilizing the changeup with more frequency today than we have seen at any other point. Again, I think that probably just comes from knowing how right-hand dominant that Yankees lineup is for the most part, and realizing you got to give them another wrinkle in there. So he was utilizing that changeup, and it was very effective in certain spots. He left a couple of them up to Mr. Dirty Slide, Tony Rizzo and DJ LeMahieu, that he got burned on those a little bit. But seeing him be able to work in there now, a potential fourth pitch, is something that is only going to enhance his arsenal going forward. And then if you look at it from his strikeout standpoint, I mean, he was very well diversified there. 3 on the fastball, 3 on the changeup, 3 on the slider, and then 2 on the curveball. So trying to kind of break up his patterns a little bit. But again, I did find it fascinating to see him utilizing first pitch fastballs with such regularity, say, in contrast to what we've seen in his earlier starts.
Well, I love some of that. The one thing that I want to get back to and just hear your take on, Steve, is, would you consider this a successful start for Dylan Cease tonight?
No.
Okay. All right. So I'm with you there. I agree. This was not a successful start.
There are positive things that can be taken from it.
But I don't want him trying out developmental stuff in a game
I don't look at that as a developmental type thing. The fact of the matter is, in high stakes games, if you're pitching against the Astros, if you're pitching against the Yankees, if you're pitching against the Rays, you've got to keep those guys off balance, because again, those teams are really smart. They have really good advanced scouts. So this is where having that fourth pitch to be able to work into that mix is going to be so important here. And now, if the rotation stays online here, they're going to see Dylan Cease again for the Sunday night game of the week next weekend. So now they're going to have that little bit of seed of doubt in their mind. Okay, is he going to utilize the changeup with as much frequency? Because then if they put themselves in a position to where they're looking for that changeup maybe in some 1-1, 1-2 counts, if you're thinking an 83, 84 mile an hour changeup's coming, you got no chance. High spin 97 at the top of the zone.
I wasn't actually thinking on that level, Steve, and I really like that thought. I really like that thought of where you're coming from here in terms of how this rotation plays out and what kind of 4D chess is happening behind the scenes here in terms of, hey, we're going to see this guy again in short order. So I just thought that was a very valuable bit of information there. If you're tuned into the show, I think that was some like very deep level thinking there, Steve. Good shit. Moving along in this game, Steve, the White Sox offense is something that I want to talk about here. 3 runs in the second. They were able to respond to a 3-run third from New York, as well as a 1-run 4th inning from them by putting a run back up themselves. Sox come back after the Yankees score 1 in the 7th and put up a 3 spot in the 3rd. That's where I wanted to go back to and say there was some fight in this offense tonight. We were talking in the Sox on Tap group chat, and Johnny asked us a question: do we have a chance to put up any runs against the Yankees bullpen? The Sox were able to do that today. That's where, like, I thought things were going pretty good. If you're a White Sox fan, you kind of think like, hey man, like that's where I say the White Sox can beat the Yankees. You just have to like shut that shit down and play pristine baseball. That's something that I said in the chat when we were talking about some of this stuff. Steve, talk about some of the things that you saw from the White Sox offense today.
Well, the one, there were some good things that happened offensively. We talked about this, obviously. Scratching and clawing back from a couple of different deficits throughout the course of this game is definitely a positive thing. AJ Pollock is starting to show some signs of life here over the last week. That's something that's kind of been talked about quite a bit in various media circles, is just how slow he typically starts. And then, May, June come around, and then all of a sudden he'll go on a tear. And it looks like that might be starting to happen here. So I talk about this all the time about lengthening the lineup and putting stress on opposing pitchers here. If Pollock is going to be able to be in the midst of one of those hot stretches now, that can kind of help to take some of the burden off of the fact that Jose Abreu and Yasmani Grandal are struggling.
Hey, Steve, pardon me for inserting here. Fuck that. Jose Abreu needs to hit the fucking baseball.
No, I agree 100%.
But I also agree with your take. AJ Pollock guys picking each other up, that's fine. But I feel like guys have been picking Jose up for a long time.
Yeah.
It's time to get on the MVP shit.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. As I talked about earlier here, if him and Yasmani Grandal are not providing power to this team in the middle part of the lineup, they're going to be in trouble. That's just what it is.
Yeah, I don't mean to insert negative comment. I feel like I'm playing Resident Johnny Night tonight, but I just had to say it. Like, I don't want to hear any more Jose Abreu excuses. I want to see fucking home runs. I want to see dingers. I want to see doubles. I want the daily Jose double back.
Yeah. The one sequence in this game that I thought was very pivotal that is not going to get talked about here is that 4th inning when the Sox, they were down 6-3 going into the inning. They load the bases with 1 out and they get 1 run because of a wild pitch.
Yes, this is a major sequence in this game. We have
seen that far too often here in the first month and a half of the season, of this team being in position with multiple runners in scoring position and less than 2 outs and getting 1 run if they're lucky. You saw tonight that 8th inning was a perfect example of it.
What was the stat? We had a Jay Kuda tweet.
Oh god, it was like 1 for 36.
Enter our group chat tonight. If you're not following Jay Kuda, go follow Jay Kuda. He's got White Sox stats for days. But 1 for what did you say?
I think it was like 1 for 36.
1 for 36.
Some obnoxious number.
We talk about being opportunistic on this show. We talk about how you score runs, how you win ball games.
Narrator voice. That in fact is not opportunistic.
That is not. It's not opportunistic, Steven. It grinds my gears. Things that drive you up the wall are White Sox batters in positions where they have runners in scoring position so far in 2022, or bases loaded, whatever it is. They're near the bottom of the league. That's not great, Bob. .gif posted on twitter.com. Not great, Bob. You have to be able to execute. You could be talking about blowing the game wide open early. That sets the tone, Steve. It sets the tone.
Not only that, I mean, in that particular spot right there, if you're able to punch more than one run across the board there, maybe you get, heel out of this game earlier, and you get into the Yankees' middle relief quicker. And then all of a sudden, now that's putting more strain on their bullpen, not only for today, but for the
Yes.
remainder of the weekend there. That shit matters.
I love where your baseball mind's at today, Steve. I really do. Yeah, because it's something that I look at in every series is how does game one go? How are you going to tax this? But what happened a couple of days before? You know, the Yankees are riding in here hot. The best way to slow that shit down is something that Steve said earlier. Start taking pitches, drive up the pitch counts, make the pitchers work, because you might lose game one of the series. But if you battle and start to wear down the other team, the same way the Yankees grind you out, you can grind a team out where it doesn't have to be an onslaught of, well, we only had to go to two of our middle guys. You see it from the White Sox side, right? Like, you go into a series against the Kansas City Royals, and all of a sudden it's like Graveman, Hendricks, after you saw like 5 other dudes come out because Dylan Cease only made it 4 innings. I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about previous years. That's what game one in a series is going to do to you, and set that up for that other ball club. Because just the same way that fans look at like what's going on in this current series, the first game in every series, how do you work that team's bullpen to start setting yourself up for success later on in the series is important. I love where your baseball mind's at tonight, Steve. I think that's an awesome take.
Hey, like I said, I was due. Sometimes sleep deprivation can bring quality thought processes out. Who knew?
Yes, Steve's gonna go to sleep here soon, so I'm gonna close the book on today's.
It's not just tonight. This is a continuation of the shit show that I experienced on Monday. That was just the beginning of this downward spiral.
Well, you know what, Steve? Let's close this up soon so you can get to bed. What do we have on tap for the White Sox coming up here tomorrow?
Look, this is going to be a tough one tomorrow. Obviously, Garrett Cole taking the mound for the Yankees. Vinny Vince Velasquez on the mound for the Sox.
How you feeling about this?
I'm not feeling great. Not feeling great.
Vinny Velo. So I'll ask you this one: if I'm perusing available starting pitchers in my fantasy baseball league, and Vince Velasquez is available, in the free agent pool for tomorrow, are you picking him up tomorrow and saying, I'm going to ride this guy?
I am not, simply because I'm not overly confident in.
You're not on the Vinny Velo train right now?
No, it's just it's a matchup thing here, and we saw that start in Minnesota where he was falling behind everybody consistently, and I don't think he made it out of the second inning that day. We saw the types of at-bats that the Yankees hitters put together on a consistent basis here. If Vinny falls behind with consistency, that's going to spell trouble for him. And then again, all of a sudden now we're talking about having to dip into that bullpen very early, and that's just problematic. So strike one is going to be of paramount importance for Vince. If he can have that good depth on his slider that he had in that start against the Angels a couple of weeks back, that will obviously position him pretty well, and he threw the ball well against the Red Sox in his last start at Fenway last weekend here. So there is some positive momentum going for him, but he simply cannot afford to fall behind these Yankee hitters. Otherwise, it's going to be problematic.
Hey, Steve, I want the rest of the series to have a Field of Dreams feel. We saw the White Sox.
I would like that too.
In person, do some damage to the Yankees out in Iowa. Maybe they should just move the series out that way for the final 3 games.
But just Vinny, just go out there and attack the strike zone aggressively, and keep guys like that dirty sliding douchebag Anthony Rizzo off the bases, and things will be good.
Hey, that's all you got to do. Hey, Steve, before we get out of here, you got to pick the click for tomorrow. Who's going to get the job done for the White Sox? Who's going to bring home the win here? Who's going to help make that happen? Because we need some more positive discussion on this show tomorrow night.
If I'm going to take somebody, I'm just going to go crazy here. Because, like I said, Garrett Cole, this on paper does not look good for the Sox tomorrow here. So if he's in the lineup, I'm going to take Josh Harrison. They spent a lot of time together in Pittsburgh, so he obviously knows him pretty well.
Going crazy with it. Yeah, that seems like a logical choice.
I'm digging deep here, okay? Maybe he's got an advanced scouting report on him. Who knows? Maybe he guesses right on a first pitch fastball and hits his first home run in a Sox uniform. That'd be nice. So that's what I'm going to go with here.
I rode Tim Anderson today into this ball game.
By the way, we seem to be glossing over the fact that I did take Yohan Moncada today, and he did deliver with his first home run.
You did, so I will give you +1 on here. I don't have a little button that gives like points on this show, but I wish I did. I'm going to figure out how to do that so we can give +1s if you're in the Twitter watching this. Go give Steve some heart things if you're in the comments. Tell Steve he did a good job today. I think that would help him out here as he gets through some of his pick to click excellence. Your baseball mind, Steve, is just going at a million miles an hour, and I'm we can use this to solve so many problems.
Don't test me for PEDs though, because I'm totally clean.
He is. He's 100% clean. I've seen Nani go on some really awesome streaks of where he's.
Oh, he'll go on some heaters.
Yeah, he goes on some heaters. Thanks, Tom. I love this. Good job, Steve.
My buddy G-Lo in the house. This is one of my fellow South Suburban College Bulldogs in the house here. We were having a little powwow over text during the game here today.
That's awesome. I love to see it. We need more good job Steves in the chat. Steve, I don't know who I want to go with here. Gavin Sheets, a couple home runs, drives the ball out, into the gap today. I think potentially it might be time to get back on the Gavin Sheets train. So I'm gonna go ride with Gavin Sheets. Maybe he connects with one tomorrow and sends one out into the former Goose Island section. I would like to see that.
It would make you very, very happy and make you a very proud papa to see your baby boy put one out there.
It would really honor me to see Gavin Sheets just connect off of a Garrett Cole fastball and park it into an Anheuser-Busch formerly owned section with the White Sox Stadium. I'm going to roll Gavin Sheets. I think he'll be in the lineup. Not positive, but if he's not, I'll have a different pick to click, and Johnny will tweet it for us. Be sure you're going to ontapsportsnet.com for all your Chicago sports, literature, and podcasting needs. Steve's baseball mind is absolutely on fire. You might have something coming for you in the content factory over in the White Sox section of that specific website. Steve, do you have any final thoughts before we close this one down?
Flush it and find a way tomorrow. Doesn't matter how. Find a way. Vinny V, go out there, throw strikes. Otherwise, it's going to be problems.
I love it, Steve. I'm with you. Throw strikes, hit the ball, maybe in the air, especially if your name's Jose Abreu. That's all I've got. Steve, White Sox forever.
White Sox for life.